One way. Hey everyone coming in. You guys are all muted. We'll get started a couple minutes after. What's going on, everyone? Welcome. You're all muted as you guys are making your way in. We'll get started in a little bit. Feel free to say hello in the chat. We had fun with this on the last webinar. Say hi, what state you're coming from, or any of those. To any of our folks on the West Coast, hope you're doing okay. A little scary with those sirens coming on. Awesome. We'll get started a couple minutes after. Lots of people still making their way in. You're all muted as you guys are coming in. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Love seeing all the familiar names. Oh yeah, we got you, Lindsay, on that EMR. Oh, and update since the last one. Someone reached out to us from there already, so you never know. Anyone who uses EMRs out there, we touched on this on our last webinar. Just email support or email any of your folks at Sway, whether it's Casey or Doug, and if there's an EMR out there, we'll try our best. Awesome. I'm chuckling, Mike, at the frying pan. A lot of very hot over here as well. I'm in New York, Britt's in Connecticut, and it's one of those days.
Yeah, I was gonna say the East Coast, all the East Coast is a frying pan right now.
And then the folks in Arizona are just like, come on, guys. Been there, done that. Awesome. All right, I'm actually going to be patient because people are still flowing in here, so I'm going to give us one more minute for after, and then we'll dive in because we got lots of stuff to cover. This is super exciting, and this is just fun. I love seeing all your guys' names, and it's fun to just be with our people. Yeah, the dry heat. I get it. So- oh no, I said I was going to be patient. I'm waiting until that minute changes. We'll wait. But you guys are all muted while I'm sitting here hanging out. I'm going to put the slides in the chat so you can follow along. But we're going to have, all this recorded. All the good resources will be out there for you on this whole topic. All right, before or after, let's rock and roll. So welcome everyone. My name's Kim from Sway. I'll let Britt introduce herself as well, but I'm part of the customer experience team here at Sway, and this webinar is going to be about year 2 and beyond. So for hopefully most of you on this call, this is not your first rodeo, not your first year with Sway, and even if it is, hopefully you attended our webinar last week on just what there is to, do with Sway, how to baseline all of that. So today's webinar is really going to be geared towards, kind of year 2 cleanup or your next year with baselining, how to archive athletes, all that jazz. And the most exciting thing is all of our new features and updates. I'm getting a slide ahead of myself. So before all that, housekeeping. I said this already, but you guys are all automatically muted. Put all of your questions in the Q&A. I'll keep eyes on the chat, but the Q&A is definitely going to be the easiest place for us to manage questions. We're definitely going to try to answer them in real time. So pop them in there. And there's this new feature on Zoom that you can upvote a question. So if someone puts a question in and you have the same one, there should be, I don't know, like a little like button or something where you could agree with that question or whatever that you want to hear that. So if there's a lot coming in, click the question. I'll make sure we get to it. If I don't get to it like right away, it's because we're covering that particular question or topic a little bit later in the webinar. So um, definitely pop all the questions in there. And this webinar is going to be recorded as well as our other one that was, and those will be posted on our website probably by the end of today. You'll see. If not, definitely by the end of the week. All right. Um, I mentioned this on the last one. You can absolutely submit this webinar for Category D CEUs. So at the end of this webinar, a survey will pop up. And actually, someone put this in the feedback. Sometimes those survey emails go into like your promotional Gmail like folder. It just like automatically goes there. So if you don't see it in your inbox right away, of course, check spam, but sometimes check that little like promotional category. Fill out the survey and then you'll get a certificate and you can submit that for Category D CEUs because this is really based around a product and that type of learning. So yeah, this is what we're going to dive into today. We're going to start with all of the feature updates that we've made really over the past year, and there's going to be a bunch of like kind of small little ones that we're going to dive in. And then from there, those are going to flow pretty easily into how to close out the past year and getting ready for your new year of baselining. So you'll see how all of those features that we highlight will hopefully make your cleanup and baseline testing even smoother. And then last but not least, tips and tricks. And even when we get towards that, if you guys have learned tips and tricks along the way in your years with Sway, you can certainly pop those in the chat and I'll make sure to call them out at the end or maybe have a discussion over it because we do want this to be as interactive as possible. Like I always say this, but we learn from you guys and the best way to learn is through everyone else. So we have folks on here that have probably been with us for 5+ years, even more. And some folks, maybe this is just your second year. So we're all here to learn and we hope you guys have a good time. So I'll pass it over to Britt.
Awesome. All right. You're going to see yourself here real quick. So we're super excited to obviously first go over these feature requests. We hear from you all. We love hearing from you all about the different things that can make your lives easier. And, the goal is to try to funnel all those in and figure out a way to bring that to our dev team and get them into real life for you all. So, as we're going to first go through them, kind of in a more quick fashion. And then as we're talking about closing out last year and gearing up for this next year, we'll jump into the portal and into the app so you can see those features work. All right. The first thing I want to make sure we do is if you have not been on your Sway app recently, we have released a new app, updated app, I should say. So make sure that when you go onto your mobile device, you go to open that app you're using, the version 6.0.2. Okay, so you can always check in your app store on your phone to double check that you're using the most updated app, because that's how you're going to get access to some of these features. Okay.
And actually, even later today, it's going to be 6.0.3. We're about to just put a quick little patch out to fix some things. And that being said, all of these updates that we're doing, especially on the app, if something is not working or doesn't feel right, whatever, email support@Sway Medical or give us a call so we can get on it right away. We want, baselining season to be as seamless as possible. So let us know if something doesn't feel right.
Yeah, exactly. So the next, big, it's not really a feature, but, big part of our Sway Medical team. Yeah, milestone for really pushing our software and helping, with your concussion management process, we are FDA cleared. The first mobile device to be FDA cleared using both balance and cognition within our Sports Plus protocol. So this is nothing new, in terms of how you use this Sway app. This doesn't necessarily change that per se, but it really reinforces what we've been saying and what we've been pushing from a standpoint of supporting your clinical decisions with those concussed patients and athletes. So super excited about that.
And I will say, I'm sorry, I have to chime in on this. It
That's okay.
does change the way you guys can talk to your referral sources, talk to the parents that are giving you a headache about, why are you doing this? Like now it's, officially recognized by the FDA that only us and Impact were the only two products on the market that can actually say we're cleared to be used in a concussed population. And you'll see hopefully later this year and certainly into next year, we're going to have a lot of research publications coming out on all the data that we had to submit for this FDA clearance. So, like Britt said, it doesn't change the app. The app is still working. And, for those of you that have been with us long before this clearance, like we appreciate you guys. We're able to get this because of, you guys using the platform and all the data and that we were able to analyze for that. So really big shout out to the whole community.
Exactly. The next thing we want to share is regarding the actual app release 6.0. This includes profile sharing. So this has been a huge one that we've heard from you all, just trying to improve your collaboration with other concussion, specialists, whether it be with physical therapists, physicians, or even, other high schools that are also using Sway organizations. So this is a feature that's both in the web portal and in the mobile app. You essentially are able to create a QR code or a link if you're looking to share a profile to another Sway organization, or if you're not able to do that, the athletic trainer from that other organization is actually able to import it manually into that, as well as any clinical reports that you create have the QR on them that you can share out to providers where they can quickly scan. So just to dive in a little bit closer, just so you understand how this works from a sharing standpoint, right? We kind of have these two definitions of how a profile can move from one Sway organization to the other. We have that profile transfer and a profile share. With a profile transfer, it's going from Sway organization A, it's transferred over to Sway organization B. So that means the entire profile, all tests, events that were created, and so forth, are moving out of organization A and only will live in organization B. Whereas profile sharing, you take that profile that's living in organization A and they share it over to organization B, and they're living in both. And they're going to live independently in both. So in terms of like if you add them into certain groups, if in one group it's active, the other group it's inactive, that's how it can work independently. But any tests created, any events that are created in one organization would update in both. So thinking about that situation where you're having that athlete now be seen in physical therapy, they're using the Sway app too, they're going to be able to update and test on that same profile that is in your organization. So really cool feature. Again, just keeping everybody in the know that's caring for those athletes. All right. We have tons of resources on this on Sway University and in our help center. The next big thing within the app, which doesn't seem like a big thing, but hopefully this helps just with communication with your athletes, right? When you create those codes and hand them out for testing, that enter code button is now at the top of that screen. So it's above the login credentials, right? Just a reminder, athletes do not have a username and password. The only way they can take a test is by that 5-character code that you provide them, or if you're logged in as a Sway admin and you're handing that phone to them to take a test, okay? So when you go and hand out that instructions, if you already have instructions made, just make sure you update that on the enter code location button.
Oh, we have a great question on profile sharing.
Yep.
What, in your perspective, from a just from a traveling athlete perspective, what do you think is best to do? Create a traveling athlete code or profile sharing? So we'll
Yeah,
take
that's
it.
a great question. So with profile sharing, so when you test an athlete, right? So if it's shared to your organization, now you're gonna test them, on the sideline. That will be a test that's on your organization. Now, I want to stress the idea of this feature is not to add profiles that are being tested on your org. We really want this to be a collaboration across clinicians. So, we allow for you know a bit of overflow. Like, let's say you purchase 200 profiles, and those 5 athletes that you tested that aren't a part of your school that you tested on the sideline, because you had that profile shared to you, puts you over. That's not something that we would dock you for. So we really want, if you feel like it's going to be helpful to have that profile shared so you can see previous tests completed, have that athletic trainer share it, or you can import it into your profile. And then once you no longer need it, you can put it in your inactive group. But if you have a good system going where you have a code that's shared and you share it out to the away athletic trainers to test your athletes and vice versa, that also works. And you can click that show results after tests as a part of that code, and you're able to at least compare baseline to that test you complete. So it's really based on,
Yeah.
what your workflow is.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel like you guys are gonna have to, figure it's gonna be different for each scenario, right? Like, what is your relationship with the visiting athletic trainer? Can you easily text them and know like they can share the profile easy enough with you? Here we are. Um it- and yeah, I think it's gonna be really dependent. So really interested as you guys make it through this season. Um, let us know what scenarios you guys run into. The profile sharing, I think, can definitely work well with visiting athletes, but it depends how like fast you need things.
Right. Exactly. So now jumping into the portal updates that we have. The first one that you'll probably see if you've logged into the portal and have some open events from last year is just a quick highlighter view of those open events. So it's just really to draw your eyes. You know, as you should know, that orange means that somebody is in an event. So if you're looking inside that profile, it's going to be in an orange banner. So this is just to kind of drag your eyes over there and, focus on those athletes that may need a little bit more attention. The next one. So if you didn't know, you're able to, any of those testing codes, those group codes, profile codes, you're able to create a QR code that can easily be shared to the athletes, to the coaches, to provide to the athletes and so forth in the Sway app. But we understood that this is not necessarily easy if you're looking to print this off, post it at your baseline sessions. So we listened to you, and now you can do this same feature in the portal. So you go to the codes page, click the specific code, and then there's a share button right next to the code name where you are now able to create a nice big QR code. You can save it down, you can print it right from your, laptop or computer to be able to have on hand for your testing sessions. The next one, the code page. So this is a really, really great view of when an athlete enters that code, they create their profile and they start showing up under that code page, whether it's in the portal or the Sway app. And now you're actually able to filter that code page with either first name, A to Z, or Z to A, depending on how you want to look at it, as well as filtering it by incomplete and inconsistent results in the Sway portal. And this will soon be also available in the Sway app. So essentially, again, you go to that codes page, you see the list of names. So these are all the individuals that added that code already into their device, made their profile, and are in the test. You're able to hit the name up here to filter, as you can see, A to Z first. If you click it again, it will go Z to A. And then if you click this red or incomplete only filter, if we've noticed there's four athletes here, you click that button and now it's only going to show those athletes that have those red inconsistent tests. If for some reason that you have an athlete that was going through the Sports Plus protocol or one of the protocols and their phone dies, so they're not able to complete the full test, they will also show up here showing that, they only finished 2 out of the 5 bubbles, showing each module of the test.
And this is a big one. And we talked about this on the last webinar, like diving deep into the baseline session. I live off the codes page when I'm running a baseline session. So when you're on your app, and especially if you're like helping out like another team or something, or like when I go to schools, I don't know every single athlete. So if I'm able to sort and have those red or incomplete ones, it just makes it so much easier now to see which kids like have the inconsistent modules and may or may not need to redo that particular module. Just quick reminder, red does not mean bad. It just means inconsistent. But you guys are veterans, you all know this. Just quick reminder.
All right, next one. This might be one of my favorite feature here. All right, so the bulk move tool. So this is part of kind of our working through last year's data and kind of getting your system set up for the next year, right? Originally, that bulk move tool in the Sway portal was listed under profiles. So the first thing I want you to know is that it's moved. It's now under the groups and still in that top right-hand corner. You'll see the bulk move portion. But I think the biggest thing that has been updated is before you needed to go through each group, which, if you have 20 sports, this can be pretty tedious to then go through, filter by grad year, and work through each of those groups. No longer. Now you're able to click all profiles within that bulk move feature. You're able to then filter by grad year, and you can quickly check all and move all of those athletes into your inactive group really quickly. So this should save a lot of people a lot of time. And if you've already done this and you're ahead of the game, you got it next year. You can use it next year. The next feature, so merging profiles, right? We know that when you're providing the codes to returning athletes, if they do not use their same first name, last name, and date of birth, you may get a duplicate profile. And so before, when you were merging, there was a merge tool in the portal, which there still is. All right, there's been a small change where when you would grab those profile IDs for those athletes, you had to choose which one you wanted to keep, which one to lose, and then it would just funnel all the tests into that one and then lose that profile shell from the one you wanted to get rid of. But we make mistakes, right? We add the wrong profile ID in those fields, and then we merge and keep the wrong profile. So now you have the ability to flip-flop, right? So when you go and you look to confirm that merge and you're like, shoot, I put Jane under the one I want to lose, but I actually want to keep that profile, you just hit that flip-flop button, it's going to flip, and then you can confirm really easily. The next one is that, you could be looking through your profile list and you see a ton of profiles that you're like, oh man, I need to merge these. They're kids. They throw in the wrong name. They put in nicknames, right? This happens. Well, under the tools section, you have the ability to now create a possible duplicate profile report. All right, so what this does, and we'll kind of go through this as part of our year end and getting ready for the next baseline session. As long as 2 out of the 3 fields, meaning first name, last name, or date of birth, 2 out of the 3 of those match, it's going to show a report that drops down in the same window, and you can quickly just click merge if you know that truly those are the same athletes and you only want one profile. So really important just to pay attention. You're going to be able to see all 3 of those fields on there. If you have identical twins, they're going to show up on that list always because they have the same last name and the same date of birth. So you want to make sure you review closely. You're only merging the ones you want to. But this should save you all a lot of time if you know your athletes are putting in nicknames or not matching to what their previous profile looked like. Okay.
This might be one of my favorite ones. It's so easy to see all these possible duplicate profiles. So that'll be a
Yep,
fun one.
exactly. And the last one is really to just improve visibility of what's going on in your system. We've added a reporting tab here under the main menu. So if you are a system admin, you're able to view that reporting tab. If you jump in, you're able to filter based on start date and end date of what you want to pull from a data standpoint. And then you're able to view from a high level across those dates all the profiles that were tested, unique profiles, I should say, how many total tests were completed, a breakdown of baselines versus non-baseline, or what we would expect to be post-injury tests, and then how many logged events you had over that data period. And if you want to export this and kind of look at this year over year, you can just copy this table to the clipboard and then pull up Excel or whatever platform you use for that and copy and paste it down. So you're able to really just look at how you are using this, using your system over a set period of time.
Some quick question on transferring profiles, or really bulk moving, I guess is more of the topic. Is there a way to bulk transfer from one school to another? So athletes that tested out of middle school and then they're now going to the high school.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the easiest way to do this, if this is not, even if this is under an enterprise, right? Those schools are kind of under this umbrella. Reach out to support@swaymedical.com. We have the ability to take an entire group and move them at once. Currently, you all don't have that ability. So to save you a lot of time to doing this individually, reach out to us and we can transfer those athletes over.
Awesome. Let's see. Question on the reporting. For one school this month, this report said 27 baselines tested, but the profile tested report gave 40. Why the difference?
So you're going to show up the profile test, and we'll kind of dive into this a little bit when we look at like the system activity. That's going to show a line for every profile for every test that was completed. So if a profile has tested multiple times, there's going to be a kind of a line in that Excel file each time. You can filter it so it removes duplicates, duplicate profile IDs, and that should match this report that you're seeing in front of you. So really that export test feature, you're exporting every test that was taken, not profiles that were tested per se.
Mhm. And when we get into the portal, we'll kind of show you guys where obviously this reporting tab is, and we still have, Britt, correct me if I'm wrong here, in the profiles tab, there's still an export test where you can
Yes,
export every single test, data and information on the profiles tab. This is the reporting tab is more of the kind of like high level, like overview of what's going on in your system. So we'll dive into
exactly.
that when we get at that. And then Sue, you said you're not seeing the share code from the portal. If you click on the actual code itself, there's going to be a little arrow in the like top next to, like, you'll see a little edit button, 3 dots, a trash can maybe, and then a little arrow. We'll get into the portal soon.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's go into what we got to do kind of to move on from last year in order to get your system set up for this year. So we kind of have three big things. One, archiving, using the bulk move feature for those graduated seniors or transferred athletes kind of out of your active groups. You want to close out any events, open events. Hopefully you're doing this in real time, right? You clear an athlete back to play, you're closing the event in your system, but we know times are crazy at the end of the year and that can be pretty tough. So we'll walk through that and then talk through those reports that we've kind of dove into. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Sway portal. Yep. And I'll probably, I'm sure I got logged out here. Yep, of course. All right. So as you're going through here, understanding that if
I don't see your
you,
screen yet.
yeah, I'm logging in here.
Sorry, I'm impatient.
No, it's okay. That was a good showing of our security feature there. All right, now can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing we want to go into is logging, bulk moving those athletes, right? So if we go into our groups here, we go to the bulk move option up in the top right-hand corner. You'll choose, right? You can still go group by group if you want, but if you scroll all the way down, you're going to see the all profiles option. Choose which group you want to move them into. So we want them to move them into the inactive group. And then over here in the right-hand corner, you'll be able to filter out, right? So I can choose all the 2021 grads, click here and move. And you'll get this pop-up to confirm the move. The big thing you want to make sure, if these are truly graduated athletes, you no longer need to see them, within the Sway app. You'll click that to confirm and then move that athlete out there. Okay. So it's important to note that only active profiles, so ones that are in your active groups, are going to show up in your Sway app. So sure, could you leave those athletes in your system, in those groups if you wanted to? Absolutely. They're just going to always show up also in the Sway app. And as you continue to test and that your profiles continue to grow, that could certainly slow down the app just because it's pulling from the Sway cloud. So it's just a good admin tool to do, year over year. That way you're only seeing the athletes you need to see in the Sway app. You can always go into your inactive groups in the portal and be able to, pull those up at any point in time and see those results. Okay. The next
And
one.
another question that comes up, inactive profiles, they don't cost you anything. So as long as like they're graduated and you don't test on them, they just live in your system. I mean, HIPAA wise, like you got to keep them there for at least 7 years. That's the kind of standard HIPAA thing. But they don't cost you anything. So it's always good to just clear them out. Like Britt said, it'll keep your app running faster. But they're always there if you need to reference.
Exactly. Then the next step is closing out these events, right? So you'll be able to highlight these and jump into them really quickly from the dashboard. And you can do this in the app as well, but I find like if you're doing this all in the portal, might as well just keep going. At the top, you'll see the banner that says edit event. And all you have to do is go in and add that close date, right? So this athlete, if I remember, all right, by 3:10 was their last assessment that cleared them, and I remember putting them back into play by 3:14. You add that, add a time if you want to be super specific, any specific notes you have from the clearance standpoint, and then you save it down. And once saved, you'll see that orange banner stops, based on the date that you added for the end, and then they no longer will show up here. At this time, I know this is a question that comes up. We don't have a feature that allows you to close out multiple events really quickly. The idea around this is that, you're being really cautious. You're reviewing these cases from a, management standpoint, and you're kind of going in one by one and making sure notes and everything are up to date. So that's the reason we don't. Definitely something we can look into for the future. But currently you got to go in between each one. Okay. And then the last piece is going through those, looking at the system activity, right? And there's 3 reports that you can pull from the dashboard or from your Sway web portal. The first one is that export test, right? So this is looking at every test that was completed over a specific date. So you can pull, if you want to look at, you can do this quarterly, you can do this over the full school year, what any date range you want. You can, if you want to include, like if you were doing just on-field assessments or other surveys and you want to include and see those timestamps of when you completed those, just check off that and click save. And this is going to save down as a CSV file. So again, you can open it up through Excel or whatever platform you use to be able to view it, filter it, edit it so that you're seeing, exactly the information you want to see over time.
And Britt, correct me if I'm wrong on this. When you guys download the CSV file and pop it into Excel or Google Sheets, every single row on that spreadsheet is going to be a test. And when we
Correct.
say a test, that means if I took a baseline, to a baseline test today, that's going to be one row. It's going to be like my name, my profile ID, and all of my modules. If I redid my balance module on a baseline, my name and profile ID is going to be on another row. So you're going to see every test. So that's the difference between when you do export tests on the profile tab, there's potentially going to be multiple lines. Like this profile will have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like her
Exactly.
name, this person's name is going to be in there 7 times. There's going to be 7 rows with all of their test data
Yep.
versus we're about to pop into the reporting tab. It's that more high level view.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So that's the difference between those two. If we go back to profiles, there's this other tab here. This is the export events. This is another reason why using the event feature is so handy. So many of you all have to report, whether it's to the NCAA or, just your admin about your total concussions over the year. This is a quick way if you are categorizing those injuries as events, you're able to pull a specific event feature again over a period of time. So whether you want to look at a specific season or the full year, it's going to download as a CSV file. And now each line is going to be the event. So if John Doe has an event that runs, beginning of September to the end of September, that's going to be a line and it shows the start date, the end date. So you can look at injury trends. How long did these injuries last over time? Shows what group they're in. So you can look at, all of your athletes, all the sports, were there trends that you see from that? So just a really great high level view to kind of see what were those injuries over time. And then the last one here is that reporting tab, right? So again, it's going to automatically populate your subscription, your current subscription year. So your cycle, which it shows up here. Just note that this is going to show anybody that has been tested at least one time in your system. So that's going to count as one profile here, regardless of whether they're inactive, active, or whatever. Okay, and then, you'll see a nice high level view. You'll click table to clipboard, copy table to clipboard, and then you can also drag that into your CSV file. And now you got a great overview of that year. Any questions, Kim, about just kind of looking at the high level, closing out that year?
Yeah, I just sent to one question just to go back to the bulk move or archiving profiles. Our Help Center article is all up to date on that. And that's where you can, sort by the graduation year. And question what did come up, I answered it. Now, and someone put it in the chat. If I type an answer, can everyone see the typed answer?
They should be able to, yes.
Okay, I hope so.
Yep. Yep.
Because another question was, if a profile is inactive, can you bulk move out of inactive? And yeah, the short answer is yes, with that same tool. Now, we do have a good question that's probably worth spending a little time on. Just from a general baselining perspective, what do you feel works best as a group, or send out like as a group in person? I'm assuming. So Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. Or send out information and allow them to do it on their own remotely, potentially, or at home or whatever. Pros and cons to both, obviously, but curious what we recommend at Sway or what we've heard from others. So we definitely have a recommendation on this, but Britt, you could say it.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
this is going to be case by case based on how much access you have to those athletes. But we really stressed having those tests be done in person. There's a lot that goes into the app does a really great job of kind of walking through those instructions, but it's really hard to know if you're testing remotely whether those athletes had their eyes closed or not during the balance, whether that phone was pressed to their chest. And the way that the test records those results, it's so sensitive. So any small changes where you're not there to kind of nip it in the bud right there in the moment, is going to change how those results show on the test. So when it is you are able to try to test in person, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now you do have the ability to, definitely if you have an injury that happens on Friday, you're not going to see that athlete until Monday and you want to maybe collect some symptoms over the weekend, you can provide a symptoms only code, and in that, absolutely that's a great way to, use that remote feature of having them kind of test and collect information over time while you don't have access to that athlete.
Yeah. Any folks that I've heard of doing baselines remotely, some folks will send out the cognitive piece remote and like make a custom protocol with just the cognitive test, send that remote, and then have them in person do the balance test, and then potentially redo any modules that are coming up inconsistent, redo those in person. But I find like if you're gonna be there in person, I'm gonna have to make you redo something. We could have just got it all done, in one shot. But great
Yeah,
questions.
exactly. All right. So we got last year all taken care of. We got some great information of how we use the system from last year. So let's start gearing up for this year, right? And so a couple things just to touch base on. One, remembering that we have this great integration uh, kind of set of EMRs that we integrate with. So if you are utilizing Sportswear, Healthy Roster, Privet, Pyramid, or ATS, as well as we're working on Teamworks, um, and you don't have this set up already, reach out to support@swaymedical.com or jump on our website to our integrations page and request this. Awesome if you can get this done before your next baseline session, because then any test that's completed is going to be put into that EMR, those matching profiles, makes your life a lot easier. So you're not manually having to drag those over into your EMR. All right.
Yeah. Quick question in the chat. Final forms, is it in the future? It's definitely on the list, so you never know.
That's awesome. Yep, exactly. All right. So, couple things that we find is really important to just update in your system before you start having those tests roll through. One, updating your staff. All right. Reviewing your subscription renewal. So understand when does your new bucket of profiles start, for your subscription cycle, and then how are you setting up those baselines again? Which I know everybody can always use a refresher on that. In terms of updating your staff, this is done in the Sway portal. So understand that people come, they leave your organization. So making sure people have access to that your Sway system as needed. It's important to know how much access do they need, right? So we have 3 access types. One being the enterprise system admin. So, that's a little bit more specific to a different kind of organization setup. But the main ones are a system admin and a user. All right. So you can do a lot of things as both. But if you are labeling somebody as a user, they are only going to have access to the specific groups and the profiles that fall under those groups. So if each year you're adding new groups, you're going to have to manually update that access for that athletic trainer or provider. So just thinking about, who needs access to what, really, really important. All right. The next thing in terms of
Oh,
pro,
sorry. Quick question. This is an
yeah,
easy one. How many users can we have? Unlimited. We don't charge per user. You just pay per profile. So from a security standpoint, we don't want you guys sharing logins. The school nurse can have their own login. You guys, your staff, people, I guess, go back and forth on whether you want coaches in the system or not. Really depends on your school setup, but most times coaches will just text the healthcare provider for a code if they need it, if the AT is not traveling, but unlimited users.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the subscription review, just want to quickly review how our profile usage works, right? For the most part, a subscription cycle is going to be 1 year. All right. So let's say our renewal date is on July 1st, right? You're going to be able to see if you're a system admin and a billing contact or the primary admin of the account, you're going to be able to see this billing summary, right? It's going to show how many you purchased for that renewal, how many you've used, and how many you have left, as well as that renewal date. All right. So one profile used is equal to the first time that profile is tested within your new subscription cycle. So as soon as you test, whether it's a returning athlete or a new athlete in your system, they're tested once. They now have unlimited testing for the remainder of the year. So it's just a quick little view of, that athlete. If they've been tested that first time, right? You can then test them over time. They have an injury, you can test them again, and so forth. And it's only going to be one profile used. Okay. But that does not matter whether you already had that profile created in their account or in your account, and now, or it's going to be a brand new athlete to your school, right? As soon as that renewal happens, they test for the first time. That's one profile count. Okay. So we're going to jump back into the portal here. Just real quickly, if you're updating your users, you're going to see it in the users tab, right? If you need to add anybody new, you'll click add new user. Here's where you're able to choose their access type, right? If they're a user, you're going to have to add them to each of the groups that you want them to have access to. If they're a system admin and you fill all this out, you can add them to one, save it down. They're automatically going to have access to all groups, all profiles, as well as some of the features that we talked about today. The reporting tab, the possible duplicate report feature, and they're also able to add and remove users as needed. Okay. If you're going
And
to oh, go ahead.
whenever you add someone, whether they're a user or a system admin, they're automatically going to get a welcome to Sway email. So that'll allow them to log in and all that. So basically that's the next step. Like, hey, I added you in the system. Now go check your email for a welcome to Sway email.
Yep, exactly. That goes out automatically. Now, if you need to remove somebody, it's just you click to open their user profile and you click the trash can next to their name. You'll have to confirm that you want to delete it. If you're going to do this and you get an error message, it's probably because the user that left was set as a primary admin of that account. So just reach out to support@swaymedical.com and we will be able to manually adjust this based on who's going to take over that role. Again, the primary admin for us is really that contact person. If there needs to be adjustments or we see something about that account, we're going to reach out to that primary admin. As well, if there's new features and things like that, we send out correspondence throughout the year. All right. And then in terms of the subscription overview, so if you are labeled the primary admin or a system admin that's a billing contact, you'll see this billing tab. You're able to see that sports billing summary through the the cycle to see how much has been used. You're able to see any past or open invoices, right? Both in the billing history and the view invoices view. And then you're able to see the current subscription as well as the next subscription that's coming up on your next renewal. So if you ever need to make adjustments to this, reach out to billing@swaymedical.com and we'll be able to make those adjustments for you. All right. Any questions about that, Kim, that came up?
Not yet, unless people are feverishly typing right now. Here it comes. For billing, when you say profiles are counted once they're tested, does that mean baselines or post injuries or both? Both. I mean, it could be a survey. You could send like a mental health survey to a profile, and that would count as it being tested. Something is administered on that profile.
Exactly. Yeah, that's an easy way to look at it. All right. So last step is just getting ready, getting that baseline session set up. All right. So with this, we'll want to make sure we're updating any groups, creating group codes, making sure we're choosing our location and dates of where that the test is going to be, and choose who we're going to be testing. All right. And so we get the question a lot of how often should we baseline test, right? Should this be an every year thing, every other year, first time they come to the school? And really, this is a snippet of our resource on the resource page. But based on the mining of our data, looking over time, so looking at ages, both our cognitive portion of the Sports Plus protocol as well as the balance portion, we see some significant changes, especially when you look at the adolescent population, right? Think about those freshmen that first come in. They are wet noodles. They have no idea how to control themselves from a bodily movement standpoint, or not bodily movement, but a movement standpoint. So, from testing their balance, there's going to be a lot of changes with how they can control that positioning. So being able to test over each year is going to be awesome, to have a new timestamp to be able to compare to any injuries, as well as developmental standpoint of their cognitive. Their brains are constantly changing over time. Where we're seeing a little bit more of a plateau in the collegiate standpoint, obviously the NCAA gives some guidelines on how often you should baseline test. And certainly if you have athletes that have had any changes in their medical history, have any recent previous concussions, are at high risk, that's definitely going to potentially change how often you're testing your athletes over time. Okay. Couple of things to talk about with when you're updating your groups, and whether you need to create a new group over time or not. And the reality is, since we have that bulk move feature, you really don't have to create a new group with a year on it to then create test codes and start testing your athletes. You can maintain the same groups unless you're adding new sports or something like that, and just cycle those athletes out that you no longer need to see each year, and be able to then just create your codes each year instead of having to create groups and codes. Okay. And you can have multiple codes for that same group. So this is just a snippet here. This is all the same group, our demo code group, right? And this just shows over time all the Sports Plus protocols, all the Sports Plus codes we've created for that group. All right. Codes do have an expiration date. So make sure you pay attention. If you had a code from last year and it expired, that's okay. You're just going to go ahead and create a new one, right? Always keep the expiration date a little bit longer than you feel like you need to. Some organizations, they'll keep it open and they'll use the same code year over year. Totally up to you. I always found that became a little overwhelming when you go to click the code page to view what's going on, and you see so many of those athletes listed that you didn't test during that immediate testing session. So totally up to you on whether you want to keep it open or create new ones. You can edit those expiration dates as well as the notifications. So as a code is completed, you can create a notification either through text, email, or through the app of when a code is used to notify yourself. So you can edit that and the expiration date, as long as the code, which you see up here in the all the way to the right, the status, right? As long as it remains active, you can make those adjustments to it. And like I said, if it expires, that's okay. You just make a new one, right?
I feel like that's a big, tip or trick that we've heard over the years, or people have said like, oh, why do I have to create a group every year? Or we'll see a lot of group names and it'll say like girls basketball 25-26. And you really don't need to do that. Like all of your groups, if you're going to organize it by the teams, it should just say girls basketball, boys basketball, cross country, maybe JV varsity, or however you want to do it, but it doesn't need to say the year. And I agree 100% with what Britt said. I live off that codes page during a baseline session. So if I was to use the same code year over year, that code page just gets so heavy and slow because the profiles that took a profile on that code last year will still pop up. So just create a new code each year for your group, but if you solidify your groups and get them set in the beginning of your very first year, or this year maybe if you want to make some changes, then you never have to touch your groups again unless you're adding a new sport like rugby comes
Yep.
on or whatever.
Yeah. And that also helps if you do have users that have access to only specific groups. You don't
Hmm.
have to go in and manually adjust what they have access to from that standpoint. And codes can be created in both the portal and the app, where groups
Hmm.
have to be added in the portal. So, for some reason, if you have a testing session in an hour and you're like, shoot, I don't have access to my computer, I only have access to the app. If your group's already set and you're keeping the same groups, you can just quickly make those codes in the app.
Yeah, we have a great question that's in the queue here. What if they play or the athlete plays for multiple teams? Is there a feature to have them select all sports, or is it two profiles in two groups? So, great question, but we'll answer that for you. Go ahead, Britt.
Yeah. So groups, profiles can live in multiple groups. So when they go and use, so let's say this is a new athlete and they're both in the, we'll say this is the demo group and the football group. They're going to initially be added to this group, the demo group, because that's the one they're using the code for. But you can always go into their profile. Let's see here. I'll jump into the portal here real quick. And I go into a specific profile and I'm able to jump into their groups and add the groups right here. You're also able to do this in the app. Or if you have 10 athletes from soccer that also play in baseball, you can just use that bulk move feature, right? And that's where you're going to able to filter through, volleyball. Okay, volleyball is also playing in I don't know what group, let's say baseball. And then you're able to, pick those athletes and move them over that way really easily. So
Yeah,
another way
but I
to use that bulk move.
yeah, I would say too though. So just to reiterate, it's going to be one profile that can live in as many groups as you want. Um,
Right.
And if you don't want to go through, there's probably so many multi-sport athletes. If you're going to be baselining, say, like the football team in the fall, and then your lacrosse team, you're going to baseline them later, like in the winter or closer to their season, just have that kid re-baseline, like
Yep.
with his new team. And that automatically puts them in that group. Now, that kid who tested during football season, you don't have to pay for that. You already paid for the profile. You can test that kid as many times as you want in your subscription year. The only caveat is that kid, when they test with the lacrosse team in the spring, is they got to put in their same first name, last name, date of birth. So their football profile automatically merges with their lacrosse profile. And then that's the way that the kid puts themselves in both groups versus you having to do it. So
Yep.
plenty of ways to work around that. Uh,
Yep.
we
And that was the next slide here.
Oh, perfect.
We look at, using the same, they
Oops.
can all use the same code, athletes, whether it's new or returning, they're going to use that same group code. They just have to match those three fields. If they don't, you just have to merge them on the back end. That's no big deal. All right. And
Awesome.
then just
We
a
got a few.
couple.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Go. Well, this is just a wrap up here. Just reminding
Yeah.
everybody, download that baseline session cheat sheet from our resource. We have updated our compatible device list based on our 6.0 app release. So if you are noticing whether they're not able to download the app or they're getting an unsupported device error, they should use a different device, or same thing if the battery dies or so forth. Just have them use a different device. No big deal. What questions were popping up, Kim?
All right. So when editing a test on the computer portal, will there be a change added? Oh, yeah, yeah. To allow multiple edits before like saving the app. Yes, Mike, definitely on the radar. Didn't make it this cut, but we know that one for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Yeah,
It's easy. I always say, when you're wandering through the edit feature, it's actually easier in the app because that edit
yeah,
window stays open. But you can do it in both. That's, I think,
yeah.
important.
This is a good one. If I'm new to a school and the previous AT used Sway a couple of years ago, will the athletes' profiles that are still in the school from that time be reactivated automatically? Um, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, unless they were moved to inactive, like those profiles were labeled inactive, they're still going to be there and they'll be active until you move them.
Yeah, as soon as an inactive profile, I believe, and we can double check this, is using a code, it is it is added to that active group. It will still show up in the inactive group. So you'll want to go in and just remove it, but the status will move to active and it will join that group of whatever, sport or class that is using that code. Yeah, that's a good question.
Um, so the question came up, do you suggest having them baseline with each sport they play, or can you just use the baseline from the fall or and use it in the winter? And I mean, absolutely. Really baselining once a year is awesome. It depends on your time, your resources, kind of the flow of the school. If you want them just to be part of the team and you're baselining with it, what's it going to hurt to get, another baseline data point of where they are in that time? Maybe they broke up with their girlfriend in between seasons or something and they're just, a hot mess and you want to, who knows what happened between seasons. So really depends
Yeah.
on your time and resources, but the baseline for 1 year is 100%, you know, valid.
Yep. And it's important to know, if this is a returning athlete, any previous baseline that was taken that's 6 months or older will automatically be excluded, and it will only keep that new baseline. So if you are testing, in the fall and the winter, and there is a baseline that's within 6 months, it's going to take both tests, but you can adjust that kind of baseline start date manually, assuming that this is only happening every once in a while.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So if you baseline them in the fall and then baseline them again, say in the winter, it's going to take like your green, yellow, and red. The idea is hopefully they had no injuries or no issues. They're going to stay consistent between that fall baseline and the winter baseline. If they're like totally fooling around or have a terrible, I don't know, day on that winter baseline and their results are super different from what happened in the fall, then you're going to get some red and yellow because their baseline results in the winter session look different than the fall. So that's a great point and kind of a, interesting scenario.
Yep. And it would show, if it's excluded, it would be grayed out. So this is an example of just retests on the same day. You can always look on your baselines tab, and this is kind of the overview. So if there's multiple tests that are being calculated, showing multiple trials that are being used, right? It will show up here. This is how it's going to create that average and pull and compare to any post-injury tests.
I do want to be mindful of people's time. We're already over the hour, but this is what happened at the last webinar. We have so many great questions. So, we'll go a few minutes over and certainly answer them, but obviously appreciate everyone being here and taking the time out of your day as we're heading into, quite a busy time of year. Uh, Same athlete, two different sports, uses the nickname for one. Will that take two of our profiles? It'll technically, yes, take two profiles for that short period of time, but then now you can run that duplicate report, merge them, and you're not going to get charged for it. That profile count will be adjusted.
Yep.
So hopefully that answered that. And then how do you delete a group? So someone initially created separate boys and girls cross country, but they always test together, would rather just have them in one group. All of that can be done in the portal from the groups tab, hit that little trash can.
Yep. It won't let you do that if there are athletes in there. So make
Mm,
sure you bulk move them into a different group before you delete them. But once the group is empty, you can delete it.
yeah, I think it'll give you a pop-up that you can't do it if you
Yeah.
try to. Yeah, awesome. Great questions. Oh, I lost the chat. Um, but yeah, if anyone has any other tips or tricks they've learned along the way, or obviously if you guys have questions, never hesitate to reach out to support. You're always going to get, Britt, myself, or Sarah's also on our customer experience team. So we're always here to help. Any last minute burning questions? I did see someone like raise a hand, so I don't know if you had a question, if you could type it in quick.
They might have been saying goodbye. Oh, there's one.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. That's true. I didn't think of that. All right. Since someone started mid last year, most of my baselines are only going to show one when they retest. I'm not sure if I fully understand the question there, Sue, but like if they just did, if they have a baseline from, I don't know, like say mid-year, if it was 6 months ago, it doesn't matter when, if they re-baseline now in the fall, you'll see that baseline from mid-year, whenever it was, 6 months or
February.
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'll be two lines basically on that profile. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah. You'll always be able
Awesome.
to see the previous tests there.
Yeah. And for anyone that's baselines like, multiple years, like your seniors are going to have 3 years worth of baselines or whatever. Knock on wood, no injuries, but like you could potentially see plenty of tests on a singular profile over the years. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, we're past time. This is all going to be posted on our website at some point. Remember to complete that survey. You'll also get an email reminder about the survey for CEU